Good God. I would expect to get this level of bad from the 80s, the 90s, even the early 2000s, where studios didn't really know or give a shit about the comic book property that they had, that they're making the movie of. They just took the name and made a bad movie. But now we're in the 2020s. Okay, we've had so many superhero movies, whether it's the Dark Knight trilogy or the Marvel Cinematic Universe itself, pave the way and show us what we are capable of, what we are able to do with comic book superhero characters. And then we get Morbius. Further proof that Sony doesn't know what the fuck they're doing with the Spider-Man property. Give up, Sony, please, for my own well-being. Morbius, I'm not saying he's that high in my favorite Spider-Man villains list. He's not. I just remember him from the animated series, and I thought that they did make him slightly interesting. They did make him a compelling and sympathetic villain for Spider-Man to face off with, and you have the interaction with Blade. Now, this is Sony. I'm fully aware that they couldn't have Blade involved, although why not? You already have Tom Holland on loan to Disney and the MCU, so why not make another trade and let them use Blade? Although Sony clearly wouldn't know what the fuck to do here. This movie, it starts with this scene of Michael Morbius, played by Jared Leto. Jared Leto, by the way, had already failed playing the Joker in Suicide Squad. And I don't know how much of it is his fault versus the director's fault or the studio's fault. Either way, it has Jared Leto's face all over it. And now we have another superhero character with Jared Leto's face all over it. So Michael Morbius is this doctor that has this disease that makes him frail and weak. And he goes to this area, this location, a cave. He cuts his hand and draws out all of these bats. I could not help, even when I saw this in the trailer, thinking, are they trying to rip off Batman Begins? That iconic scene where Bruce Wayne stands up in the cave and is surrounded by bats and just becomes one with the idea of bats, and that kind of gets that character going. I know Morbius is maybe more in DNA connected to bats, or that's kind of where he's going here. So I get the idea, but the way it's shot, the rip-off Hans Zimmer score, whoever did the score here, it clearly ripped off the Zimmer feel, that tone. And for some reason, this is the point where we decide to go back in time. Because you know how usually really good movies will do that, where they'll go back in time or do a flashback at an awkward moment, but it makes sense for the story why, or you're a little surprised, but maybe it's going to reveal something very important. No, this just goes to the past now because because why not? We go back 25 years and we see young Michael Morbius. We could have just started the movie like this, honestly. But we see a young Michael Morbius who was sick even back then. He's at this, I don't want to say orphanage type place, because it's also like a hospital as well. He meets his pseudo roommate, who's this kid, Lucian, but Morbius just calls him Milo. He says, I've known a bunch of you, basically saying that I've had plenty of kids next to me who have died over the years, so why take the time to learn your actual name? You're just gonna die anyways, so I'm just gonna give you this generic name that I've given to every other kid and call you Milo. Kind of makes young Morbius look like a dick. You introduce the Stephen King bullies. I call them Stephen King bullies because every Stephen King book and movie always has bullies that are at next level. They're not just the bullies that walk by and call you names. No, they're not even just the bullies that walk by and push you down because they're dicks. No, these are the type of bullies that will beat the fuck out of you. In fact, they will probably kill you if you're not careful. And they're beating the shit out of sick, dying kids, no less. Back to present day, Michael Morbius, because he's done this blood research for himself for so many years now, he's disappointed that he hasn't been able to cure himself and cure this disease that he has. So he actually turns down the Nobel Prize, which I guess is supposed to show that he's this upstanding, unselfish like person. I just look at it and think, well, that was dumb. And as a kid, you were kind of a dick. So I guess now, all these years later, you're just a nice guy. Okay. We also see that there's this little girl who is sick as well. I think she has the same thing he has. They don't know how to cure her, right? So what do? They put her in a coma. And you think to yourself, all right, well, since they took the time to establish this, to set up this little girl and Morbius's affection for her, connection to her, what she represents to him, they'll surely pay this off by the end of the movie, right? No. I don't even think we end up seeing this little girl again. So I guess she's just still in a coma for life now? Wow. Great job, Morbius. We see Matt Smith, who is the grown-up version of Milo. And not only is it weird that he is still Morbius's best friend, especially because of the way they met, but he still goes by the name Milo. It's not his name. His name is Lucian. And as close as they are, and the fact that Matt Smith's character survived all of this time, he was supposed to die. So he's still alive. Yes, he's very sick still and frail and weak, but he's still alive. How about after a few years, let's show some respect and call this guy by his real name? No, we still call him Milo. And you also see that he's now just rich. I guess his family left him a bunch of money, which begs the question of where was his family when he was a kid? I mean, maybe they just sent him to this facility to get better, but it's so weird. They don't explain it. They don't even give you a sentence of what's going on. You just see that he's just rich. Okay. I think the only reason why they did make Matt Smith's character rich is just the excuse that Morbius will ask him for financial help so that he can continue doing the experiments and go off on his own. And so that's what he does. He goes on the ship in international waters because, of course, you can't do this in the U.S. And so while he's doing these experiments, Morbius turns himself into the living vampire, this giant vampire person, and it's a decent sequence of him just going on a tear, a rampage, and killing everyone on the ship, except for his girlfriend, of course. But he kills everyone, and normally I would say, fuck yeah, this is the right way to go, to make Morbius this person that turns into a monster, but he can't control himself. So sure, it's not his fault, but he is still actively killing people. But no, the movie constantly wants to remind you that, hey, these guys that he killed, they were bad people. They were criminals. So who cares? Not a big deal. It's okay that he killed them. No, double down. Sony, double down and make Michael Morbius this dangerous, unpredictable guy. Not that he knew when he became a vampire, he knew that these guys were bad and he would never have done this if they were just regular cops or whatever. So that's where we introduce the two FBI agents, possibly the worst and weirdest casting that I've seen in a superhero film in a good long time. We have Tyrese Gibson, who, sure, Tyrese, because of his money issues and whatever the hell is going on, if you look at his Instagram stuff, he needs money. So I get why he's in this movie. I'm not surprised, or I'm not expecting him to be in any real good movies. This guy's been in the Fast and Furious movies and the Transformers movies. He'll do anything if he gets that paycheck. So sure, fine. But he has this cop partner, this guy who makes jokes all the time, constantly makes these side comments that Tyrese doesn't ever really react to. It's weird. You would almost think that maybe a lot of this dialogue was dubbed over, done after the fact because of how awkward it is, and you never really see Tyrese laugh at his jokes, or they don't have any real back and forth as if they have been a team for years, like they say. Not only is that awkward, but the guy, the character's name's Al. I don't blame him himself, but it's just, this did not work. A lot of the bad comedy, the bad humor comes from the two of them awkwardly interacting at every crime scene that goes on. Morbius develops this synthetic blood so that he doesn't have to go and kill people and drink their blood. I say that's lame. This can be something that you can get to eventually later on, but I personally, like I say, Sony should be treating these characters like they are villains and like they are flawed. So Morbius should be drinking real blood, should be killing actual people. But hey, I'm even okay with if he goes out there and he's picking bad people to do it, but still have it be this icky thing that us as an audience doesn't know how to feel about the fact that he is actively killing people. Of course, during this time, he's still researching, he's doing tests. He does a lot of things where he eventually realizes that he has these powers, this ability to almost teleport because he's going really fast in the air, and it has this shitty purple CGI effect that gets left behind. And like, this is a decent idea in theory, like it could look cool, but I don't know, Sony, for whatever reason, they decided this is the one movie that they were going to cheapen out on the budget with, which, when you look at the box office, I guess that was a smart move. Back to the Tyrese character, because there's a moment where the cops have Morbius in custody, and Tyrese is talking to him, and he tells him that Morbius saved Tyrese's arm or something. And there's a couple shots where you can see that Tyrese's character has a robot-like arm, or at the very least, some modeled arm that is artificial or whatever. And they don't really get into it. They don't tell you exactly what happened or what the backstory is. And looking up, the character that Tyrese plays in this film does become a superhero-like character in the comics. And I think Tyrese, in interviews for this movie, has said that he signed on for like 3 films and that he is going to be a superhero. None of that is set up, though. None of that is built up. None of that was earned in this movie. It's not like he develops this connection or relationship with Morbius to where you can see that coming down the line. Or it's not even like this would have been easy to do. It's just have these two characters be friends already. So that Tyrese, who maybe knows that Morbius isn't a bad guy and knows that this isn't really him or that there's something going on, have them have a friendship where this is paying off. But no, it's there just to be there, just to kill time, even though this movie's only like, what, an hour and a half maybe? There's also this moment, I should mention this, where Morbius is out there doing Morbius things, and the cops are chasing him, and there's a shot where the cops have him almost surrounded, and Morbius just flies up to the roof of the building. Like, it's quick, you see the purple smoke, and you think to yourself, oh fuck, the cops are going to freak out, because this is the moment where the cops realize that he's a vampire, or at the very least, he's supernatural, or he has powers, whatever. And the cops literally just say, go get him. Even Tyrese says, go get him. They don't react. There's no one that says, holy shit, what the fuck is he? I know that this is kind of, sort of connected to the Spider-Man universe, maybe the Marvel universe, not exactly well explained. But even if you want to say that these characters are used to superpowered people, superpowered villains, you have to at least acknowledge that, oh shit, that was something I didn't expect. Like, at least be surprised on a certain level. Don't just treat this like this is a regular guy who stole a purse and it's business as usual. We're not even at that point when it comes to regular Marvel movies where civilians aren't going to be surprised or awed or wowed when they see something in front of their face. And then, as fast as Morbius made it to the roof of the building, Tyrese somehow magically made it to the roof of the building as well. Cuts him off with his gun. How did Tyrese get up there so fast? What? Does he have powers too? They didn't show it. And not just that, Morbius stands down. Morbius says, okay, you have me at gunpoint. I'll just go into custody. Dude, you could fly away and outrun Tyrese right then and there. You can fly, dude. You really just go in? Oh, ugh. Even if they had explained that Morbius believed that he was guilty of more crimes and so he deserves to be locked up and dead, I would even maybe buy that, but you don't get that. It's not earned. Things just happen in this movie. Speaking of just happening, for some reason while he's being interrogated, Morbius has this line where he says, "You wouldn't like me when I'm hungry." And not only is that line cringe, but they're just ripping off something that Bruce Banner says in The Incredible Hulk, but he says it there because he accidentally speaks the language wrong and says hungry instead of angry. It's actually a funny, well thought out joke there. This is just lazy as fuck. Matt Smith, Milo, who at this point knows what's going on with Morbius. They had a whole scene where Matt Smith wants the same stuff that Morbius has, and Morbius said, no, it's too much power. You don't want this. Matt Smith showed up at the police station and helped Morbius escape. But you also find out that Matt Smith has taken the blood stuff himself, so he's now turned himself into a vampire. And you get this confrontation between them at the train station. And I don't know what's more awkward. The way that these two, the forced conflict that has to get them to go up against each other. I mean, you could have made this interesting. You could have. But the fact that Matt Smith is just yet another villain who has the same powers as the hero. He's just the complete opposite of being evil, but yet is his polar identical abilities, and we're supposed to be interested by the two of them fighting. We've seen this so many times in superhero films at this point that fuck you for just doing it again. Or fuck you for not making at least their dynamic together more interesting. And not just that, when they do start to fight, there's this awkward edit where Morbius is going to run, and it's right before he goes to fly for the first time in front of the train. You cut back to Matt Smith's character running along the train on the side, and they cut back to him at least 4 or 5 times. And I don't get why that is. I don't know if the director just shot all of this footage of Matt Smith running in the subway, and so he just was like, I want to use all of this. So we're just going to continuously cut back and forth to Matt Smith running. This is terrible. Like, just from a directing and editing standpoint, how is this in theaters? How is this not just direct to TV and just told to fuck off? Fuck. Warner Brothers canceled Batgirl, but yet Sony doesn't have the intelligence to scrap this movie before it made theaters into the public eyes. Also, I should probably mention, how about that scene where Matt Smith is dancing naked? Well, he's shirtless, but he's dancing in this hallway because he's getting ready to go out there and, I guess, have sex? Because that's the song that's playing. Have sex. He just, I mean, I guess the director just likes the song. How did Matt Smith get roped up in this? You know, before I had seen him in House of the Dragons and seen other stuff with him, my only frame of reference for Matt Smith's movies was Terminator Genisys, and now this movie. And so if that's all I had to go off, I would have said, man, this guy kind of sucks. But it's really not his fault. He is a great actor. I've seen him be great. I've seen him just steal scenes in other properties. So he just got fucked. Maybe he thought Marvel. I can't blame some of these actors who don't fully know the difference between Marvel Studios and fake Marvel Sony. And so maybe they just feel like it's a good payday. It'll be a big movie that a lot of people see. But no, this isn't the type of Marvel that you want to be with. Oh yeah, by the way, Matt Smith's character, he also goes and kills Jared Harris. I haven't really talked too much about Jared Harris, but Jared Harris is kind of a father figure for Michael Morbius. You saw him when Morbius was a kid, and he was mentoring him and helping him even back then. So all of these years later, he's still a mentor figure. He still helps him out and talks to him, gives him guidance and whatnot. But I remember before this movie came out and you saw Jared Harris in the trailers. And Jared Harris, maybe not the biggest actor in the world, but he's definitely recognizable. He's definitely somebody that you've seen before in other things. So obviously, articles try to predict and maybe guess that maybe his character is going to be Dr. Octopus in the Sony Sinister Six universe. And on paper, yeah, that made a lot of sense. But when you see how his character is used, when you see how little his character is used, and then when you see when Matt Smith just kills him off unceremoniously, like we have no connection to him as a character. We're just told that he's their father figure, but you don't really feel it. You didn't see a lot of it. And so this death meant nothing. This death just happened. This was interesting when I was going back and looking this up, how much of things were in the trailer but just cut out of this movie. A lot of it has to do with the fact that this film was shot and made before Spider-Man No Way Home, but because of the pandemic, or probably because Sony knew it sucked, they pushed it and they pushed it and they pushed it. And then this movie didn't end up coming out until after Spider-Man No Way Home. So they did reshoots and they took stuff out of this movie to try to have it make sense and match up and connect to Spider-Man No Way Home. And all that did is fuck this movie up into a bigger, jumbled up mess than it already was. For example, in the trailer, there was a bunch of shots of the Oscorp building. And that would have been cool, especially if you're saying that this movie takes place in the Andrew Garfield universe, because once again, it's shot really dark and it would make sense. It looks like maybe it's in that universe. And also with these weird offshoot villains, why not just connect it to the Garfield movies that you're not doing much with going forward? Just build upon it. There was also a shot, which was probably the most interesting in the trailer, of Jared Leto walking past this alley and a big picture of Spider-Man that looked more like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, but it had the word murderer written over it, which is more connected to the Tom Holland Spider-Man, who was deemed publicly a murderer at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. So all of this is confusing as fuck. I don't know why they shot it, because clearly it wouldn't have even matched up or made sense. Then you take it out, so it was still in the trailer to try to get people hyped, to try to make people think Spider-Man was here, or to try to make people think it was connected to the Tom Holland movie. All this did was cause confusion. All this did was just make people say, I don't know if this movie's going to make sense. And newsflash, it did not. So you get this battle between Milo and Morbius. Even though we spent all that time earlier of Morbius learning super abilities like the sonar, bat hearing, and the flying, he doesn't really do much of that in the fight. All he really does is he summons a bunch of bats. All of the bats attack Milo, which doesn't really make sense because Milo's also a vampire. So what the fuck? And oh yeah, I didn't mention Morbius's girlfriend character. The character's name is Martine Bancroft, and she's also a doctor that has been with him. And occasionally you get these scenes of them kissing and being in love and her being there for him. But I never bought this relationship. I didn't. And I wasn't too sure if this actress was all that great, but then I saw her in Andor, and she's amazing in Andor. She is a really good actress. So once again, it's not her, it's this movie making her look bad. But by the end of it, she gets fatally wounded, and Morbius has to turn her into a vampire by kissing with blood, and it's very awkward. And because I didn't care about her character, this felt forced as fuck. And by the end of the movie, she just wakes up and I guess is now a vampire. Please, for the love of God, don't give me a sequel with her as either the villain or the two of them as a vampire couple, because I don't give a fuck about any of this. There was this whole joke campaign on Twitter of people making jokes. It was honestly a joke. It's morbing time. Like, they created a dumb catchphrase for Morbius, and Sony apparently didn't get the hint. Because Morbius bombed. It bombed in theaters. Maybe people, general audiences, actually realized what the difference is between Sony Marvel and regular Marvel, and they won't just go to anything that has the Marvel name. But because of this whole It's Morbin Time campaign, Sony thought that, oh, this movie is getting popular after the fact. It's creating like a cult-like status. Let's re-release the movie only for it to bomb even harder the second time. No, guys, we didn't create this joke because we liked the movie. We created the joke because the movie sucks, and it's fun to beat up on the movie more. We need to talk about the post-credit scene. I'd rather forget about it. I'd rather pretend like it didn't happen. The sky is breaking up in that same purple lighting that was in Spider-Man No Way Home. Stop connecting your movies to a great film. Stop it. In this particular prison, Michael Keaton's Vulture character just appears out of thin air, appears into the cell. So he gets taken out of the MCU and brought into the Sony verse. And this is such an awkward moment where Michael Keaton is in the cell and he's looking at a reflection of himself as if he looks different, but he doesn't. He looks the same as he did before. And instead of freaking out of like, oh shit, I'm in a different universe, or oh shit, at the very least, I'm somewhere I'm not supposed to be. Where's my daughter? Where's my wife? Where's my family? No, his first piece of dialogue is, I hope the food is better in this joint. Ha, ha, ha. Sony, leave the comedy to the professionals. Leave the jokes for the MCU. And then you get this news report. Because Vulture is from a different universe, because they don't know who he is, they don't have him on file, and so they don't know what crimes he was originally put in jail for, he's going to be released. What? Oh, well, whatever he did, just go back into the public. Just go out there and be free, even though you could be capable of anything. Then we cut to a shot of Morbius driving this badass car. And I was wondering at this point, well, what happened to the side plot of Morbius was running out of synthetic blood? And if he ran out of synthetic blood, he would either be forced to start drinking real human blood and kill people, which he doesn't want to do, or he would die because he would just eventually get weak and that'd be the end of it. We're not addressing that now, even though it's clearly been time past. It's just, he just is who he is. Great. So I wasted time with that for no reason. Morbius meets up with the Vulture. The Vulture is now in his full MCU costume. He has the wings, the helmet, everything. Even though Spider-Man Homecoming clearly established that he only was able to get a suit like that was that good, that had that type of tech, because he used material from the Avengers movie. The aliens from the Battle in New York in the Avengers film, he used that to create this badass suit. That did not happen in the Sony verse. So why does he have this suit? If you're going to argue that he used different materials, bullshit. This is clearly a moment where you could tell this was shot or reshot at the last second because his helmet never comes off. We never see Michael Keaton actually deliver this dialogue, so it was obviously dubbed after the fact. And what's even worse is that the way that Keaton sounds when he's talking, it sounds like he recorded this in his bathroom or just somewhere that wasn't an official studio. So it sounds like shit. He sounds like he doesn't give a fuck at all, and I can't say I blame him. This sucks. This absolutely sucks. I just hate how much Sony is trying to tag along to this party that they're clearly not invited to. They're going to make their Sinister Six, and I'm going to be forced to watch it. So guys, let me know in the comments below, how bad is Morbius? I'm not even going to ask you what do you think. This is bad. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.